Okay, so we're looking at a relation that represents profit for the concert and number of tickets sold. So what does P represent? Profit in what? Okay. And N represents what? Number of tickets that are sold. Okay. So there's two things we have to find in this question. We have to figure out the number of tickets that must be sold to break even. So that's the first part of the question. When you break even, what is your profit? Do you make any profit when you break even? So to figure out how many tickets must be sold to break even, what would the profit have to be equal to for them in order for them to break even? That means they haven't lost any money, they're covering all the costs, they're getting all their money back of what they paid for the musicians and to rent the hall. What does the profit have to be equal to? $0, right? Once they pass that point, then they start to make profit. So let's do the first part of the question. We have to figure out number of tickets. So which variable? So we need to figure out N when the profit is 0. So we're going to use this equation that they give us. And we're just going to replace 0 for what variable? P. And we're going to solve for N. 1 second. So this is 0, and we are trying to solve for N. How do we solve this? This is a quadratic relation. What's one of the strategies you could use to solve this? Okay, so a lot of you have chosen quadratic formula. So what is A? What's A? -1. What's B? 580. And what's C? What's C? Negative 48,000. Now the other part of the question was, how can you determine the number of tickets that must be sold to maximize the profit? Now you're trying to figure out the maximum profit you could make from this event. Where would that point be located, the maximum profit? Yep. At the vertex. It would be the Y value of the vertex. So there's two ways you can do this. You have an equation in standard form, and you're trying to figure out the vertex, right? What's one way you could figure out the vertex from an equation in standard form? What's something you learned in this chapter? Yep. Completing the square. So you could do completing the square if you want to practice that. Or you just found, okay, so whether you use quadratic formula or factoring, you should get two answers. X is equal to 480 and X is equal to 100. Okay, I'm not going to go through the steps of quadratic formula. If you chose to factor here, first thing you would do is find the greatest common factor because it starts with a -1. Divide everything by -1. And then I have a trinomial, right? Looking for two things that multiply together to give me positive 48,000 and adds up to negative 580. These were large numbers, but negative 480 and negative 100 equals negative 580. So this method is also easy to solve. So N would be equal to 480 and 100. That means if they sell 100 tickets or 480 tickets, they will break even. Two, what? X values. So you could do what to find the Y value of the vertex? Axis of symmetry.
Oh, that's way easier.
Once you find that value, you do what? Plug it into the original equation. So you could do that method, or you could do completing the square. Okay, so if you decide to solve this by completing the square, we divide the first two terms by -1, right? So this becomes negative 580n. To figure out C, we have to take b squared, we have to take b divided by 2, and then square it, and we get 84,100. So this would be written as negative 1n squared minus 580n plus 84,100 minus 84,100 minus 48,000. If I want to take this outside of the bracket, we have to distribute the negative 1. Some of you forgot this step when you're completing the square. So it becomes plus 84,100, and then negative times a negative is a positive. And then we have to take 48,000 away from that. Now we have a perfect square trinomial. Again, a common mistake people made was forgetting that if the middle sign is negative, then it becomes a negative. What's the square root of 84,100? 290, right? Squared. And then this simplified, 84,100 take away 48,000 is equal to positive 36,100. Shh. So where's the vertex?
What? 36,000.
Where's it located?
290.
Yeah. So how many tickets do they have to sell to get their maximum profit possible?
36,000.
They have to sell how many tickets? 290. What's their maximum profit?
36,000.
100. Good.